A new book on Ivanka Trump and her husband Jared Kushner details one of the most volatile moments of the Trump presidency, the days after his 2017 news conference in which the president blamed, quote, both sides for violence at a white nationalist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. The then chief White House economic advisor Gary Cohn was on the brink of quitting after Trump's comments, and it was Ivanka Trump who really wanted him in the White House in the first place, had told him, quote, my dad's not a racist. He didn't mean it. That exchange comes from the New York Times reporting on this book called Kushner, Inc., Greed, Ambition, Corruption, The Extraordinary Story of Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump. The Kushner camp, though, is hitting back against the book's veracity, and its author, Vicky Ward, a spokesman for Kushner's attorney, Abby Lowell, said that, quote, every point that Ms. Ward mentioned in what she called her fact-checking stage was entirely false. It seems she has written a book of fiction rather than any serious attempt to get the facts. Correcting everything wrong would take too long and be pointless. And the White House, I should add, calls the book, quote, sad fiction. CNN contributor Michael D'Antonio wrote the book Truth About Trump. Michael, good to have you back. Let's start with the piece on Charlottesville where reportedly Ivanka Trump said to Gary Cohn, my dad isn't a racist, trying to stop Cohn from leaving the White House. And just given all that you know about the Trump family dynamic, how often has Ivanka Trump had to defend her father on things like this?
Oh, she's been put in this position time and time again, really throughout her adult life. And even as a child, we have to remember this is the kid who walked to school seeing her parents' tabloid divorce scandal played out on the newsstands that she passed on the street. So she's been in this awful position of having to explain this man for her whole life. And I have to have some empathy for her. She's almost trapped in this dynamic. Either she acknowledges that her father has racist leanings and says racist and bigoted things, or she has to lie about it and join sort of this family practice of denying the truth, manipulating the facts, and distorting when things are uncomfortable. It's a terrible thing for her.
Sure. So you feel for her. Here's the other nugget from the Times. This book details how Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump tried to control who could travel on trips funded by the State Department, and that apparently Ivanka Trump often requested access to Air Force planes when it was not appropriate. Is this not, I could hear, some camps saying, is this not Exhibit A as to why families shouldn't work in the White House? I mean, essentially that the rules just don't apply to them?
Well, it is Exhibit A, and before I get carried away with my empathy for Ivanka Trump, that sort of stops with her adulthood. I think this is a person.
Full stop.
She has taken advantage of everything that her family name and her wealth offered. We're looking at this terrible scandal with college admissions right now, and that is all about boosting a kid who's not qualified to fraudulently gain access to the benefits that everyone else competes for on the level. And I think Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner are exhibit number one for nepotism. They're strikingly unqualified. It's really appalling that they have offices in the White House at all. And now they're coveting these Air Force jets. And, this all comes from being raised in a family where the jet with the big name on the side of it was an identifier, a part of their status. And it really was expected that you got this privileged treatment. And now this is abuse of the government and abuse of the taxpayer dollars to insist that this be something you get from the United States Air Force. It's really shocking.
But the bizarre piece of this is, so they're working in the White House, but apparently President Trump didn't want them there. I mean, at one point when he hired John Kelly, right, his new chief of staff, he told them to, quote, get rid of my kids, get them back to New York because they don't, quote, know how to play the game. My question to you is, how do you square, why wouldn't Trump want his son-in-law and his daughter around? Because on the one hand, there's all this reporting recently of how he risked everything to get them those top security clearances. But on the other hand, he wants them out of D.C.? It doesn't jive for me.
No, it doesn't. But, a lot of what Donald Trump says and does would make no sense to a regular person. So you look at this from the outside and you think, well, either he wants him in there or he doesn't. Either he wants the comfort and protection of the family or he's afraid of their incompetence. And it could have been that on a given day, he was seeing headlines that bothered him, or maybe he was hearing from national security officials that both Jared and Ivanka have security problems, and he didn't want to have to deal with it. This is a man who, for all of his bellowing and bragging and jabbing at people, is conflict averse. He really doesn't like face to face conflicts. So the idea of, well, get rid of these people, even though they're in his family, he's talking about them like they're objects because everyone in Donald Trump's field of vision is an object. Even his son-in-law and his daughter ultimately become chess pieces to move around.
Just think about that for a minute. Michael D'Antonio, thank you very much. Good to
Thanks
see you.
for